Welcome to Discography, a 5 to 9 podcast where we go through an artist's catalogue one album at a time. We are in the midst of pulling apart the discography of our first artist to be the subject of the podcast, and that is Queens of the Stone Age. And this episode sees us run through Era Vulgaris. And by us, I am referring to me, Andrew Belt, the editor of 5 to 9, and Adam Reeve, editor of the Dead Good Music blog, and Queens of the Stone Age a file. That obviously meaning that in the most positive of senses, that you just love this band. And this is also a very, we know this now from the previous episodes, this was your entry point to the band. So yeah, interested to kind of get your overview. Just before I do so though, we'll kind of just pull out a few of the facts and bits of context which go into this album. So last time around it was the post Songs for the Deaf album with Lullabies to Paralyze. Nick Oliveri no longer part of the band. The album deals with that a lot. It takes on a very different direction. It loses perhaps some fans in by going that way, and took a bit longer to get through. You know, the 2-year cycle was broken with that one, but potentially based on the overwhelming success of Songs for the Deaf and having to just take that on tour for as long as possible. For Era Vulgaris, it's back to the 2-year cycle. So this is released on June the 12th, 2007, 2 years after Lullabies to Paralyze. We have Chris Goss again joining Josh Homme for production duties, and that has been the case since day one with Queens of the Stone Age. And here as well, we have probably the first bit of consistency in the band lineup. So Josh Troy Van Leuven continues on guitar and other instruments, Joe Castillo on the drums and percussion, and Alan Johannes on bass guitar. Mark Lanigan here, not in the main part of the album and listed as one of the main members, but he still provides harmony vocals on River in the Road. Then we also have a bit of a interesting group of guest appearances. So we have Julian Casablancas from The Strokes, who's on synth guitar and vocals for Sick Sick Sick. Brody Dalle Homme, the then wife of Josh on Make It With You, backing vocals, as well as Liam Lynch, which is a bit of a blast from the past, and Trent Reznor's first credits as backing vocals for Era Vulgaris. So some consistency from Lullabies, but that won't have mattered because this would have been your first entry point. So you hear Era Vulgaris or whichever song it was which got you on here. So yeah, talk me through this and the epiphany of entering the Queens of the Stone Age world.
Yeah, so there was a TV show called Hot World on Channel 4, and one day they just played the video to Sick 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 Sick, and just blew my mind everything that was going on. But I'd sort of grown up in a household that was a mix of like boy bands and girl bands, musicals, but also like indie music, so like the Libertines and emo with like My Chemical Romance. But there wasn't enough going on for me to get a full idea of what music really is. And then hearing this song, like the riff and sounds, like it's just heavy but groovy, and the video as well is just grotesque but so cool to watch. And yeah, it was just like a real sense of like, oh my god, like who is this? And this was back in the LimeWire days, so pretty much straight away I downloaded the song and just played it non-stop until they released Priests and Sevens. And repeated the cycle, just being obsessed with that. Um, and now we're here talking
Mm.
about them being my favorite band of all time.
So yeah, nearly 20 years later. Is it? No, no, not. Yeah, nearly 20 years later. Crazy.
Yeah.
So so yeah, it's very much a kind of well, seminal band for you in terms of finding that music you were maybe missing from, previous, all of those touch points are very familiar to me, having been immersed in that Kerrang MTV2 world for a number of years by the point of Era Vulgaris. And I mentioned on previous episode that Songs for the Deaf was my first purchase of a Queens of the Stone Age CD, which at that time, some of it left me a bit cold whilst loving a lot of it, but was very young at the time with Songs for the Deaf. I'm 5 years older by this point with Era Vulgaris. And this was the second CD I bought, of Queens of the Stone Age back in the day. And yeah, similar to you in terms of 666 being the first entry point when music videos were still the entry point for a lot of artists and bands and music. Um, Quite a sick video as well. And yeah, that was catchy, good song. And then threes and sevens as well. So both of those, you're going, yeah, this is one I need to dive back into Queens of the Stone Age at the time. So that's how we both have landed here. I mean, clearly it's seminal for you. So yeah, what more can you say about this album and what it means to you and the songs as well, which maybe stand out here?
I think for me, it was kind of what I loved at the time was it felt like one of the first things I discovered myself, and it was this like obsession that it felt like it was wholly my own. And when I would play the songs just endlessly, like throughout each and every day, and like my mum or dad or sisters would inevitably get annoyed with hearing it for the millionth time and ask like, "Who is this?" And I could almost like proudly be like, "Oh, this is Queens of the Stone Age," and like they wouldn't have an idea. And there was something about that that I found quite cool because I don't know, being able to have something that was like entirely mine, it's felt really good to me. And in terms of the album itself, obviously I wasn't very sort of educated in music at that point, but I feel like a lot of it was just so unknown to me and so different to everything else I'd sort of heard on the radio or on TV or whatever. Um, that it really did sort of just stand out as this totally unique experience.
Mm,
Um, on top of just being really good songs and stuff. Um, obviously the two singles stood out, but then getting into the album, like turning on a screw, has no right to be as hypnotic and catchy and wonky as it is. Um, and I'm designer as well. Like I think you touched upon it in the last sort of discussion about Bahomi's thoughts on the celebrity lifestyle and being against that sort of platform. I think that is just such a his take on all of that. It's perfect. And um Misfit Love, like for me, that's probably my favorite song on the album. It's because of the way it's introduced as a dance number, but it sounds nothing like a dance song. It
mm,
just sounds like a collision of just, I don't know, like trash and like limbs of things just coming together just to make this unbelievable groove is just, yeah, something next level about it. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of love I have for this album
Mm.
in multiple ways.
Well, it's interesting. Like I say, second one I got out at the time. At the time, I remember being like a little bit disappointed, and like revisiting it now, I appreciate it more than I did at the time.
Mm,
But I think this is going to be the first one where you've got a more elevated opinion on it than I do. I think a couple of we've mentioned where I think I've probably sort of see them higher than you do, and then probably I think a couple of them we're probably pretty similar. Um,
mm,
but yeah, I think what's really noticeable in this one, and possibly this era from songs for the deaf to era Vulgaris, that three album run is three exceptionally different albums, really, really different. I think, there
mm,
are more turns and twists, and even obviously bring in the first two we've already discussed and the ones which have followed. But it's the most kind of punky, intentionally kind of wonky or dissonant approach, but still has the grooves, still has the trademarks of what Queens of the Stone Age are all about, which is just ultimately, yeah, danceable rock music with a great
mm,
uh great, melody as well at points. So it kind of starts with this kind of like slightly disconcerting um approach on a lot of these tracks, and it does take a while to wrap your head around. And again, even at 17 with this album, I was maybe not quite there for this experience, and yet, like I say, I enjoy it more now. Um, but there are some really great moments on here. I think it's a very bold album. I think for them to have done this, but maybe Lullabies had already been that kind of ripping the plaster off, because when you have an album like Songs for the Deaf, which everyone is just feasting upon and then wanting to know what's next, you probably do sort of try to swim against the tide and do something completely different, which
mm,
they did on that one. And then this one is just taking a concept, and like I say, it seems to be this era vulgaris kind of summarize it quite well as the song 666. It's kind of going for that slightly twisted um approach with the arrangements, and the guitars is so like crunchy, like ridiculously crunchy on this
yeah.
album. But yeah, when it works, I mean, having said that, and you've already referred to it, the opening track, Turning on the Screw, with its hypnotism, that one I've always loved. So even when I was slightly disappointed when I got the album, that one was one which I would happily listen to again and again. It's kind of weird, like hearing a kind of electronic drum kind of start to a track, considering they're a acoustic instrument rock bands.
Mm,
Again, it just shows that this experimental side, which in this sort of era of Queens of the Stone Age is really apparent. I'm a designer. I really, again, it sort of hits you with this very strange um, kind of, yeah, arrangement, which eventually the groove of it kicks in, but not immediately. It's kind of like rewiring your brain, and once you get into it, you go, okay, yeah, this is good. Into the Hollow is it's fantastic. Covers uh Hommy's feelings about just not feeling all that engaged with things, and feeling hollow, and inviting you into that world. Threes and Sevens is an absolute banger. That's just
yeah.
one of their best for
It's
sure.
straight up. Yeah. Just, yeah. Just, you can't even, it's just a great song.
Yeah, the guitar on that just draws you in, and just it doesn't let
Mm,
up at all. And another one I'd want to pull out is the closer, Run Pig Run, which is dark, nefarious, but like just so kind of guttural, and brings you in, and is just a great experience listening to that one, and closing it in that way. So So yeah, and then the surprising thing and probably our biggest difference here will be Misfit Love, because also when I was reading all the write-ups and context behind it and whatever else, it's Josh Homme's favorite track on this album, Misfit Love, and from what I understand, one which they often use to end, or at least it's a fixture of the live show as well, and has been ever since this album. But it's probably the only one which for me sort of falls below a strong bar on this album. Just find that it drifts. So yeah, that's the one sort of harsh kind of diversion we have.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this
I
is
mean,
yeah.
that's quite a hot take, I think. I mean, Misfit Love is quite loved in the Queen's fandom. So
Yeah,
to hear such slander is crazy.
yeah. Come for me in the comments, everyone. Yeah, no, it reminds me of, I don't know, this year everyone's like loving Deaf Heaven's album, and it leaves me completely cold. But anyway, that's a complete different point. So and again, I'll probably get more hate for that. So yeah, we got to ask the question about which ones you're gonna stick onto your long list for your top 20 when we come to that at the end of this experience. So which ones from Era Vulgaris make your long list?
Man, so probably
All 11.
turning on the screw. Yeah, pretty pretty much. Turning on the screw, 666, Misfit Love, Threes and Sevens, and probably Suture Up Your Future as well. I think that's the song I've really come to appreciate as I've gotten older, I think.
Well, I've got 5 from here, so I've actually, yeah, second most I think I've pulled from an album. But my 5 are Turning on the Screw as well, I'm Designer, Into the Hollow, Threes and Sevens, and Run Pig Run, basically. So they're my 5, and we'll get to our final 20 come the end. So that was our take on Era Vulgaris, seminal album for Adam, for sure. And next up we are going to sink our teeth into in Clockwork, or Like Clockwork, sorry. So look out for that episode. As ever, you can stay up to date with 5 to 9 by following us on Instagram, YouTube, and to keep up to date with the Dead Good Music blog, which Adam runs, follow at deadgoodmusic_ on Instagram. Thanks for listening.